You know, if they ever decide to bring back Universal Studios' Dark Universe, I think Guillermo del Toro is the person who should do it. Hello, everyone. I'm author R.L. Raintree. This is Reels and Reads, where I give honest reviews and occasional spoilers. Yes, I know everyone has already watched Frankenstein, but there are some of you who haven't. And you know what? What's the point if you haven't seen my review? Yeah, I'm going to go ahead and review it anyways. And then I'm going to also tell you whether or not I think it deserved the Oscar wins that it had, whether or not it deserved more, or if it didn't deserve to win at all. Right away, let's get started with the synopsis. First and foremost, we start off with Victor as a child. And Victor has I don't want to say if he's a wicked stepfather, but he is certainly a stern one who insists upon success and studiousness and perfection. He's cold. It's not like a wicked stepfather type of a deal, but he is definitely wicked too. Victor's mother. But it's important to know this because this is why Victor is so cold and detached. He is a man that lacks just human empathy and kindness. And that actually becomes part of Victor's personality when his mother passes away during childbirth of his brother, and he decides to devote his life to trying to reanimate the dead. And I don't mean just make the corpses move, I mean bring people back to life, without being blood sucking vampires. We fast forward to Victor as an adult who is trying desperately to get funding for his inhumane experiments. He does manage to secure some funding, but that's from the uncle of his brother's fiance. Suffice it to say that ultimately Victor is successful and we have Frankenstein's monster. It amazes me how many people think that Frankenstein's monster is the one named Frankenstein, but it's Victor Frankenstein and his monster. Now, I'm not going to give you the ending. I mean, common sense can tell you how it ends, but then maybe it doesn't tell you how it ends because it's Guillermo del Toro's interpretation of the classic text by Mary Shelley. And if you go ahead, like, follow, and subscribe here, you can come back when I finish reading Frankenstein and see how the book compares to the film. Now let's get into what I liked. I truly liked the cinematography of this film. It was absolutely beautiful. It reminds me of Tim Burton, but not in his, tireless sort of way. Like all Tim Burton films look like Tim Burton films, whereas Guillermo del Toro, his films look like they come from a certain time period. There's a certain style to Guillermo del Toro's films, like Pan's Labyrinth, that says that this is the style that Guillermo likes, but all of his films, and including Cabinet of Curiosities, they don't necessarily look the same. They just have the same style. But Tim Burton, they all look like they're all happening on the same damn block. So, yeah, the cinematography for it I thought was absolutely beautiful. I felt like I was being transported back in time. The richness of the colors just in the first part of the film, for example, with Victor's mother's funeral, the richness of the red in her coffin. I believe the coffin may have been marble, maybe not. That would have been pretty heavy, but it definitely was carved in some type of white material. And it was just absolutely beautiful. The reds, the blues, the greens, the teals, the yellows just popped, and the background was almost like steampunk with the bronzes and the deep browns and the leathers and the metals. It was and amber lighting. There was amber lighting that didn't make it too dark, like it was bright enough to see all of the fine detail, but not so bright that it didn't maintain darkness and mystery. So in case you haven't figured it out, I loved the cinematography. I also love Jacob Elordi's performance. He went from, this confused, almost infantile, reanimated person who's trying to understand what things are. But as he, becomes more cognizant, more sentient, you see his personality blossom from there. The longing for human connection, the longing for human contact, the way he changes once he is finally, treated as a human being, and then the betrayal he feels when he realizes he will be alone because he cannot die, but everyone else in the world can because, Guillermo didn't actually bring up the fact that vampires exist in this same universe at the time. But we'll get back to that because that's what I said earlier about the Universal Studios Dark Universe. We'll come back to that, yeah. I will say that I also enjoyed Oscar Isaac's performance, especially when he was being the scientist. I enjoyed it far less when he was on the ship and his monster was pursuing him, and I certainly enjoyed it less when when we get toward the ending of the film. Oscar Isaac as Dr. Frankenstein, when he's manic and he's in a flow state and he is hell bent on achieving this goal, was superb. I loved it. Okay. I could feel that tension. I could feel that mania. I could feel that obsession. You could see it in his eyes, the way he, make his facial expressions. But then something happened. His performance got muted more so towards the second half of the middle, like so the end of the second act all the way through the end. In certain areas, it was just sort of like, where is that angst? Where is that rage? Where is that frustration? Because your monster is coming for you and I need more. But I'm going to save that for the things I didn't like. But again, I did enjoy his performance. I loved it most when he was, the maniac scientist slash doctor. Now, I understand that this film was nominated for an Oscar when it comes to hair and makeup. In fact, here's where it won: Best Costume Design, Best Makeup and Hair, and Best Production Design. And I agree with all three of those. The costumes, Mia Goth's dress, I can't stand Mia Goth's voice, but she thankfully toned it down in this film. But her gowns and her hair pieces and her fascinators were absolutely gorgeous. Everything about that set was beautiful. If this were an attraction at Universal Studios, you'd have to drag me out of it. Like, I would spend the whole day in the park at that particular, exhibit or attraction, I believe is what they call them. I would never leave. Like, I would never leave. Like, I could totally see planning my wedding to look like that set. Now let's talk about the things I didn't like. What I didn't like was the monster's makeup, despite the fact that I think it, deserved its win. I had a problem with how it looked a little cartoonish to me. I guess I expected with it being Guillermo del Toro that it would be more realistic, like it would be fleshy. It looked like someone drew it with a crayon, and used some watercolors to fill it in. Beautiful, don't get me wrong, it was beautiful, but what I anticipated was more grotesque, a little bit more realistic. I expected to see keloid scars and swelling and things of that sort, but it was, again, it looked more like something that came out of a graphic novel, which I do not have a problem with. I was just expecting something different. And again, circling back to Oscar Isaac, I had an issue with his performance once Dr. Frankenstein was no longer, I guess, cuckoo. Um, Again, when you see your monster and it is doing everything it can to kill you, you should come off more desperate, more exhausted, more enraged, more determined to survive. And it's almost like his performance, like he was exhausted, that he had given so much to his performance prior to that, that by the time we get to the part of the film where he should really be unhinged, where he should really have lost his mind at this point because his monster, his own creation, is coming for him, it was really kind of lackluster, especially when it comes to the narration and the storytelling. So that kind of let me down just a little bit. I also felt that I wanted to see the descent into madness for Victor. A lot less than I wanted to see his childhood. Like, he could have told us that his father was a particular, or stepfather was a particular type of man and why he's so obsessed with it. But it was almost like, here's, how Victor got involved in, medicine and science and things like that. And then all of a sudden he's a crazy adult. I would have preferred to start with his descent into madness, like he's a normal person and then he's starting to lose it. Maybe give us a couple of seconds of a flashback of what got him there, but I'm more concerned into how he became so mad. Also, he's so cruel to his monster. We don't see the progression. I mean, to be so obsessed with getting this monster to be cognizant and sentient, when you find that that's failed, I want to see the failure in your face. I want to see you slowly come to that realization, oh, this is not at all what I thought it was going to be. It was just one day he goes in there and he's just being cruel to the monster. No, I want to see it. I want to see the excitement and the thrill of what you've created. It's like he was instantly done with his monster. Like, he instantly just didn't give a shit when it didn't turn out the way that he did. Like, the way that he thought it would, excuse me. And so I wanted to see Victor actually go through those changes. And lastly, I thought the monster's interaction with nature, although it was absolutely beautiful, I could have done without it. It was giving Snow White. I'm sorry. It was giving Snow White. Like, I didn't need to see him with the deer. I didn't need to see him with the little butterflies. Like, I get it. He's a gentle creature, but everybody else thinks he's a monster. And I feel like the situation that happens with the family that thinks he's like, a spirit that they pray to that's helping him out, I feel like that does enough to show us that, the monster is a kind-hearted being, that nature itself is kind to him. I didn't need the Snow White scene. It kind of slowed it down for me and it seemed kind of pointless to me. Also, I really wanted to see the monster really lose his shit. I feel like I could have gotten more out of Jacob Elordi. You have lost the one woman who was kind to you. You have come to the realization that everyone in the world is going to die except you. You have realized that this man gave you everything but companionship and refuses to do so. Although Victor did have a valid reason for that, I feel like that scene needed more. They could have given us more, dragged that out just a little bit. But the monster is just sort of like, you know, you created me. I'll be lonely. I have no one to love, and no one will love me. So I'm going to kill you, and I'm going to follow you around until that's done. And I'm like, really? Like, shouldn't there be more passion, more rage in what's happening to you right now? I also didn't like that by the time we get that version of the monster, we're at the end of the film. Like I need like again, remove the Snow White stuff and show me the monster's descent into pure rage and madness. And I thought it was so awesome the way he came for Victor on that ship. I wanted more of that. I needed more of that, and I just didn't get it. That being said, I still gave this film 4 stars out of 5 because, again, I wanted more grotesqueries when it came to the monster's makeup. I wanted more passion when it came to the monster losing his shit and wanting his revenge. And I wanted more, I wanted to see more of Victor's changes through time. Let me know what you guys thought of this, and what do you think about my idea of Guillermo del Toro running Universal's Dark Universe? Actually, before I go, why don't I touch on that? If you don't mind, I'm going to add another chapter to this. So, back in the early 2000s, I think it was, I'm not sure how far back it was, we got The Mummy with Tom Cruise. And Tom Cruised the film and ruined the whole franchise. We were going to have Angelina Jolie as the bride of Frankenstein. We were supposed to have Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde with Russell Crowe. And these people aged so well, I feel like we can still have this. But unfortunately, Tom cruised The Mummy. And then now there's another Mummy out, which I got to screen. And I can tell you it's going to throw off everything. But I mean, I don't know. It could still be done. But I feel like Guillermo del Toro is the person who could pull that off. This Frankenstein perfectly fits within that Universal Studios Dark Universe. So maybe if Universal Studios purchases this and then Guillermo del Toro comes back with Bride of Frankenstein, and he could still use Angelina Jolie if he so chooses. I want to see what he would have done with the mummy and the creature from is it Black Lagoon? It's been years. I want to see what he would have done with Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. I feel like he's the only person in Hollywood qualified to pull this off. So let me know what you guys think in the comments. Please support small content creators by giving us likes, comments, and subscribing, following. All of those fun things that I really hate to say because I feel like I'm begging. And if you click the link in my bio, you can follow me across social media and maybe even purchase one of my books. But I don't write classics like Frankenstein. I write smut. Sorry.